Wait, rewind that. 24 hours after the mother of his newborn son pushed out an 8-pound baby boy on a hospital bed, while he narrated the contractions to a live audience on Kick. Jonathan Michael Porter was in a hotel room retrieving a watch. Not his. Hers. Some woman named India. Skinny-ass India. The one he says stays in Arizona. The one he's known since 2020. The one Nevaeh Akira apparently didn't know about until the stream cut back on and the girl was already in the passenger seat. And the man had the audacity to call it everyday shit. That's the part y'all keep skipping. Not the date. Not the swap. The timing. Because timing is the whole tell. Timing is the fingerprint. Timing is the thing a man can't reverse engineer once the clock has already run. You can rewrite a caption. You can delete a stream. You can pay a blog to bury a headline. What you cannot do is move the calendar backwards. And when the calendar reads 4 days between a live broadcast birth and a live broadcast lunch date with a woman he's known since 2020, that calendar is not a coincidence. That calendar is a confession, written in ink, timestamped by Kick's own server logs, which don't care about anybody's PR strategy. I want you to hold onto that word, timing, because we're going to come back to it 3 more times before this breakdown is over. And each time it's going to mean something slightly different. First, it's going to mean proximity. Then it's going to mean pattern. Then it's going to mean product. Trust me on that. Let it cook. Quick one before I get into it. If this kind of breakdown is your lane, tap in. Hit the bell. Ride with me for the next 15 minutes, because I'm about to walk you through a paper trail nobody on the timeline has actually laid flat. Famed Cryptix don't do headlines. We do autopsies. Here's what actually happened cleanly. August 18th, 2026. Nevaeh Akira, postpartum by a matter of hours, gives birth to Jonathan Jamal Porter Jr. at a Los Angeles hospital. The labor itself was live-streamed on Kick. Blueface was behind the wheel when her contractions kicked in. 4 days later, August 22nd, the same rapper turns his camera on inside a hotel elevator, tells his chat he still hasn't retrieved his watch from the previous night, and pulls up on a woman named India, who then rides shotgun through a lunch stream, catches a full introduction to the audience, and gets told she might be able to take Nevaeh's spot if she plays her position. The where, Los Angeles freeway, hotel room, then a restaurant. The which, the Kick broadcast from the afternoon of the 22nd, the one that pulled over 19,000 concurrent viewers at its peak, per the count Blueface himself read off the screen midstream. Now widen the lens for a second, because cleanly doesn't mean briefly. Cleanly means every step of the path is walkable. The hospital in question, according to the geotag scraped off the labor stream and cross-referenced by clip aggregators the same night, sat inside the Los Angeles Metro corridor. Not a private out-of-state facility, not a discreet Cedars back in trance, but a location openly named on chat by the streamer himself in the minutes between contractions. The delivery, according to the paternity swab clip Blueface posted 48 hours later, produced an 8-pound boy. Standard birth weight. Standard hospital release window, which is exactly what makes the 4-day gap so surgical. A hospital discharge for a first-time mother with no complications typically runs 24 to 48 hours per obstetric guidance, summarized across public healthcare pages, meaning Nevaeh was likely home, healing, and still bleeding when the elevator door opened on the India stream. Records indicate the Kick broadcast on the afternoon of the 22nd wasn't a short pop-in either. According to the archived VOD segments circulating on TikTok and X within hours, the stream ran a multi-hour session, cycling through the elevator retrieval, a car segment, the freeway ride, the restaurant sit-down, and a back-half chat portion, long enough that Nevaeh had time to call in twice, for the Cheryl's World cut that clocked the incoming ring on air. This wasn't a slip. This was a shift, and it lasted the length of a workday. Now watch this next part. Let the man speak for himself. This is verbatim, midstream, unprompted, casual as a grocery list. I've been doing this for years. This is everyday shit for me though, chat. No qualifier. No context. Just admission dressed up as content. That one hit different. Let me tell you why. Because the internet is going to reduce that line to a meme by tomorrow and miss the actual weight of it. Everyday shit isn't slang here. It's a frequency claim. He's not saying, I did this once. He's saying this is Tuesday. He's saying this is what the calendar looks like when nobody's filming. Which, if you take him at his word, and famed Cryptix generally takes rappers at their word when they're mid-brag on a monetized stream, means the India visit isn't the outlier. The live-streamed labor was the outlier. Everything since has been a return to baseline. Read it that way, and the whole timeline reorganizes itself. Then, to India directly, on camera, while she's still adjusting to being introduced. Stay where you at, baby. Your time is going to come. Read that twice. He didn't say if. He said when. That verb choice matters more than the tabloids will ever admit. When is scheduled. When is a calendar entry. When is a man telling a woman on camera that a slot is opening and she's the confirmed replacement, pending performance. Court filings in family law cases have quoted less as evidence of intent. And the line wasn't whispered, it was said clean, on a stream pulling 19K, with the audience serving as involuntary witnesses. When lawyers pull the VOD in 18 months, this is the clip that plays second. India's own words back, because she talked plenty. Doesn't get any better than Jonathan Blue. She said it like it was a receipt she'd been holding 6 years. Kickstream, August 22nd, 2026. And listen to how she said it. That's the part the transcript doesn't capture. She said it flat. Rehearsed flat. The way you say a line you've said in the mirror before. Not fangirl energy. Not new crush energy. Comfortable energy. The energy of somebody who has been quietly certain about her position for a long time and finally got called up to say it out loud. That's not evidence of anything criminal. That's evidence of duration, which is the whole story here. Reporting from the Shade Room the same evening, Nevaeh Akira pops off on Blueface for not claiming her in front of Chrisean Rock, which is its own separate crash out from the same 72-hour window. Because yes, Chrisean Rock got flown from Baltimore to LA that same weekend. So do the math on that 72-hour window with me. Friday, the DNA swab stream. Saturday, Chrisean's flight lands, per the Hollywood Unlocked segment. Saturday night into Sunday, Nevaeh's on-stream Claim Me confrontation surfaces in Shade Room's timeline. Sunday afternoon, the India lunch date rolls. That's not a bad weekend. That's a scheduling grid. 3 separate women, 3 separate storylines, 3 separate concurrent viewer peaks, all funneled through one man's phone camera. Whoever's booking his week is either the most chaotic assistant in Los Angeles or the sharpest content producer on Kick. And I've got to guess which. Nevaeh later, on her own Kick that pulled 25,000 viewers. She refuses to crash out over another woman, which is itself a strategy. Pay attention. She didn't cry on camera. She didn't threaten. She didn't dox. She narrated her own composure, and the composure pulled 25K. 6,000 more than his India stream. The mother of the newborn outdrew the man with the new cast mate by a meaningful margin. Reportedly, per the aggregated Kick metrics circulating that night, that 25K peak was the highest single woman concurrent for a Kick response stream in the drama vertical that week. Nevaeh didn't crash out. She counter-programmed, and she won her slot. Okay, and then the one everybody's glossing over, the poly confession. On the same India stream, I ended up in a poly relationship because I was lying to this girl, and I was lying to this girl almost so much they'd rather both be with me at the same time than me to lie to them separately. He framed it as a testimony. It reads like a mission statement. Reread it slower. He's not describing a lifestyle. He's describing an operational fix. The lie got too heavy to carry across 2 households, so he consolidated. That's not polyamory in any philosophical sense. That's inventory management. That's a man telling his audience, out loud, that the arrangement exists because the deception load exceeded his capacity, not because he arrived at some ethical framework about non-monogamy. In the community that actually practices ethical non-monogamy, and there's a large one, well documented across mainstream reporting for over a decade, the founding rule is informed consent from every party before the fact, not disclosure to the audience after the tabloid fires. Blueface skipped the first step and staged the second. Those are different acts. This is where the story turns from mess to method. January 2026, Blueface walks out of North Kern State Prison after roughly a year and change of a 4-year sentence for probation violation, per KGD's original filing. Home by winter. And already, On the way out the gate, the machinery was rebooting. According to the reporting compiled by multiple outlets covering the release window, Blueface's first weeks of freedom were absorbed by content resets, fresh Kick partnership talk, a re-established social presence, a return-to-form podcast rotation, rather than by studio time. That detail is a receipt in itself. A rapper coming home usually announces a project. Blueface announced a presence. The pivot from music first to live stream first didn't happen in August. It happened the week the gate closed behind him. Somewhere between February and April, the Nevaeh Akira era begins. She gets the chin tattoo. He gets the public girlfriend. Hot new hip-hop framed it as a rebound from another partner. Notice what that chin tattoo actually functioned as. On a surface read, it's a devotion tattoo. Public, permanent, hard to walk back. On a producer's read, it's a contract mark. A visible commitment that guarantees the storyline can't end quickly, because too much has already been sunk into it. That's not romance. That's continuity casting. And whoever advised Nevaeh in that window either didn't flag the pattern or wasn't listened to. Reportedly, the tattoo went up before the pregnancy was public, which means the sequencing was brand first, baby second, birth third, replacement fourth. For beats. Season structure. August 18th, the birth. The Kick broadcast during labor. Baby Jr. arrives at 8 pounds. Pause on the broadcast choice. There's no obstetric reason to live stream labor. There's no relational reason to live stream labor. There's exactly one reason a person live streams a partner's contractions from the driver's seat of a car. Because the numbers on Kick during a birth event are numbers you cannot manufacture any other way. That is a ratings decision. And it was made by someone whose partner was inside her own body's most vulnerable window. Documents reviewed by clip archivists indicate the labor stream itself pulled a peak concurrent number in the same range as his top comedy streams from earlier in the summer, which, if that ratio holds, puts the birth of a child roughly on par, revenue-wise, with a good row session. Sit with that ratio. August 20th, the at-home DNA swab, publicly performed on stream. Then within 48 hours, he walks the DNA test back, says he no longer needs one, and that reversal is the beat that should stop you cold. Because think through it logically. A man requests a DNA test in the first 48 hours of a child's life, on stream, in front of a paying audience, over the mother's visible discomfort. Then, within another 48 hours, he rescinds the request. What changed? The genetics didn't come back yet. At-home swabs take weeks. The mother didn't get vindicated by a document. No document existed. So what shifted? The storyline shifted. The DNA arc had already extracted its ratings. Keeping it going would have required a payoff, a positive result, a negative result, a courtroom, something. Cutting it short freed the calendar for the India rollout. The DNA question didn't get resolved. It got canceled for the next episode. That's a network decision, not a paternity decision. August 22nd, the India stream. The watch retrieval. The lunch date. The introduction. Same weekend, Chrisean flies in from Baltimore. 4 days between the birth and the swap. 4 days is not enough time for postpartum stitches to close. 4 days is not enough time for milk to fully come in. 4 days is not enough time for a mother to safely lift a car seat without pain, per the postpartum recovery timelines published across mainstream healthcare sources. 4 days is, however, exactly enough time for a Kick audience's attention span to reset, and that's the metric that appears to be governing this calendar. Actually, hold on. Back up. I keep saying swap like Nevaeh is out. Read the room. She's not out. That's the part nobody's flagging. Nevaeh is calling his phone from home, asking him to bring food back. She's still in the house. She's still postpartum. She's the mother of the 4-day-old. This isn't a replacement. It's a stacking. And that changes the entire frame. Stacking is the older, uglier word for it. Stacking is what men used to do quietly, in different area codes, with different burner phones and different apartment leases and different weekend rotations. Stacking, until Kick, was a private organizational structure. What Blueface has done, and this is the part that makes the current situation genuinely novel, is drag stacking out of the shadows and put it on the P&L. Every woman in the rotation is now a content vertical. Every phone call from Nevaeh while he's on a date with India is a scene. Every Chrisean flight in is a sweep cameo. The stack isn't hidden. The stack is the show. And the audience keeps buying tickets because nobody's ever quite seen the mechanics laid this bare before. 3 lenses, quick. Language forensics. Listen to how he introduced India on camera. He didn't say her full government. He handed her a stage name, Skinny Ass India, and asked her sign her age, coached her through the intro like a producer, setting up a recurring cast member. She didn't stumble through it. She had answers ready. Sagittarius. 6 years knowing him. Arizona. That wasn't a first date. That was a screen test. Whoever's editing the clips for X noticed too. Clipton's post landed the take Nevaeh spot line as the pull quote inside 12 hours. Break that intro sequence down further, because it's the closest thing to a smoking gun in the entire timeline. When a man asks a woman her son's sign on camera for the audience's benefit, he's not learning about her. He's branding her. Sun signs are the fastest way to give a stream audience a hook they can meme within an hour. Sagittarius energy, Scorpio energy, Cancer moon. That's clip fodder. Then the age question, because the age is the legality reassurance to a chat that will otherwise flood the report button. Then the 6 years anchor, because 6 years establishes plausibility, seniority, and a defense against the "you just met her" attack. Every question he asked her was a producer's question, not a suitor's question. He was giving the audience her one sheet. Behavioral pattern forensics. Rewind to the 2023 incident, when Nevaeh, per hot new hip-hop soldier reporting, pulled a knife on Blueface after he snuck Chrisean into the house. Now stack that against the story Blueface told on the India stream. The story about a woman showing up to his door with a knife because he didn't come by in a good amount of time. He tells it laughing. Chat can't tell if he's talking about Nevaeh, India, or someone else entirely. He lets the ambiguity ride. That's the tell. When a man laughs about not being sure which girlfriend brought the blade, he's not confused. He's cataloging. And cataloging is the operative word, because cataloging implies inventory. Inventory implies records. Records imply, at some point down the line, subpoena. I'm not saying anything is coming. I don't have a filed complaint in front of me, and I won't fabricate one. What I am saying is that when a man on a live public broadcast turns interchangeable violence between multiple partners into a laugh line, he is generating evidence in real time that can, and often does, resurface in venues far less forgiving than a kick chat. Family court judges scroll VODs. Prosecutors do keyword searches. Estate attorneys pull streams into deposition binders. The laugh doesn't survive transcription. The 2020 anchor. India said it on camera. 2020. 6 years. That means she predates Chrisean Rock. She predates Nevaeh. She predates the whole Zeus TV era. In the same breath, he told the chat, India decides to expose all my business. That's how me and Whoopie Whoop ended up breaking up because of India. Read that slow. India isn't the new girl. India is the original girl. The one who's been in the deck the whole time, quietly, waiting to get dealt back in. And 2020 is not a random year. 2020 is the year Blueface public profile was still recovering from the Chrisean Rock introduction cycle on Zeus TV's Crazy in Love era, per the timeline compiled across multiple entertainment write-ups from that window, which means India was already in the picture during the first reality television arc of his life. She survived the Chrisean cycle. She survived the Jaden reemergence. She survived the incarceration. She survived the Nevaeh era. She has, in effect, out-tenured every other woman on the org chart. And she did it by staying off camera, which is, functionally, the single hardest thing to do when you're dating a full-time streamer. Discipline like that isn't accidental. Somebody either asked her to stay quiet, or she asked herself. Either answer is interesting, and she got dealt in the week the baby got born. Damn. Which begs the retention question I want you sitting with going into the next section. If India waited 6 years for her cue, who else is on the bench? Because a Rolodex that deep doesn't stop at one long-tenured off-camera partner. Watch the next 30 days of streams for a second nickname that lands too smoothly. A second, she's known me since year. That gets dropped without follow-up. If a second one surfaces, we're not watching a love triangle. We're watching a depth chart. This is where you see the machine work. Complex ran the labor livestream as a chaos comedy piece. Blueface rushes to hospital midstream, framing it as another beat in an ongoing carnival. No moral load, no editorializing. Just look at this guy go. That framing is a choice, and it's the choice mainstream music outlets have made about Blueface for 6 straight years. The chaos comedy frame is safe. It doesn't generate advertiser blowback. It doesn't invite legal review. It doesn't force the outlet into the uncomfortable position of asking whether live streaming a partner's contractions constitutes a form of coercive control under any of the mainstream domestic behavior frameworks that outlets like Complex have, in fact, covered in other contexts. The chaos frame is the cheapest frame to run, and every quarter Complex chooses it. The frame calcifies further. The Shade Room ran the aftermath, Nevaeh's crash out, Jade and Alexis's response, as a receipt-driven cascade, framing Nevaeh as the wounded party without ever fully condemning Blueface, which is the Shade Room's whole model, and it's worth naming out loud. Receipts without verdicts. TSR posts the screenshot, the story, the response, and then hands the comment section a microphone and lets the audience deliver the judgment TSR itself won't. It's a legally clean model. It's an ethically slippery model. It keeps the platform free of defamation exposure while extracting every drop of engagement out of a real person's real crisis. In this case, that model is what allowed Nevaeh's postpartum distress to become a comment section blood sport within 4 hours of posting. Reportedly, the comment count on the flagship TSR post about Nevaeh's confrontation cleared 5 figures in the first evening. Every one of those comments monetized. None of them went to her. Yahoo/Complex republished a labor story in the entertainment vertical with the softer headline about his pregnant girlfriend going into labor, a full arm's length from the moral question of why he was streaming during it. Notice the phrase choice. His pregnant girlfriend. Not the mother of his child. Not Nevaeh Akira. Not a name. A possessive. An adjective. A relational tag. That headline structure is the exact structure entertainment outlets use when they want to lower the temperature of a story by softening the subject's identity into an accessory of the celebrities. It's a headline pattern that reads across dozens of comparable stories in the same vertical over the past decade, and it works the same way every time. Name the man, unname the woman, describe the incident in neutral tense, publish before the moral question forms in the reader's head. Yahoo's traffic model needs the click before the flinch. And that's the split. Nobody's asking the harder one. The one that lives underneath. The harder one, since I'm not going to make you ask it yourself. Whose interest is served by the chaos frame? Because the answer isn't Nevaeh's. It isn't India's. It isn't Chrisean's. It isn't the baby's. The chaos frame serves exactly one person. The person whose bookings, streams, and merch cycles all benefit from another quarter of look at this guy go. When the coverage refuses to treat the behavior as coherent, the behavior gets to keep being coherent, quietly, on the P&L, while the audience keeps laughing at the surface noise. The chaos frame is the crime scene's own accomplice. The counter-narrative, the one that he's just being honest, Camp will run at you, goes like this. He told y'all. He's said, on record, for years, that he prefers multiple partners. That poly testimony from the kickstream is the argument. He's not cheating. He's disclosed. Nevaeh knew. India knew. Chrisean knew. The rules were on the marquee. Fine. I'll steelman that for one beat. If everybody's read the contract, nobody's a victim. That's the logic. And there's a version of it that isn't stupid. There's a real world, well documented across mainstream reporting on non-monogamous relationships, in which multiple adult partners consent, coordinate, and thrive. There are books on it. There are therapists on it. There are healthcare systems that adjust their intake forms for it. To pretend that structure never works is to lie by omission. So credit where credit is due. The he told you defense is not, on paper, invalid. It's just, and this is where the argument collapses under its own weight. Not what happened here. Now let me dismantle it. You don't get to hide behind, I told you, when your partner is 4 days postpartum and can't leave the house. Disclosure isn't consent when the other party has no exit. That poly testimony wasn't philosophy. It was a preemptive defense filed on the stream 2 hours before the receipt showed up in the passenger seat. He wasn't confessing. He was inoculating. Different animal entirely. Inoculation is a media term, not a romance term. Inoculation is what a campaign does to a candidate 2 weeks before a scandal drops. You get the ugly version out in your own words, on your own tempo, framed with your own vocabulary, so that when the opposition drops it later, it lands soft. Political operatives have been running that play for 40 years, documented across countless case studies. Blueface midstream poly testimony reads like a page torn out of that playbook, with one crucial difference. Political inoculation happens before the scandal breaks. Blueface inoculation happened before the scandal was staged, meaning he wasn't reacting to a leak. He was scheduling one. 2 hours later, the leak walked in wearing the watch he was there to retrieve. That's not confession. That's choreography. Now the read nobody's printing. Here's what's actually happening, and I'll say it plain. This wasn't a girlfriend swap. This was a content restructure. Follow me. Since January's release, Blueface Economy has shifted off records and onto Kick. The label situation, Whack 100 owning the Bluevision paper, Jaden Alexis writing the Columbia deal that was inked back in the fiancé era, has left Blueface with an interesting problem. His name is more valuable than his catalog right now. The music isn't moving the needle. The storyline is. Let me stack a few numbers on that thesis, because storyline is the product. Sounds like a metaphor until you put the receipts under it. According to the publicly readable Kick metrics that streamers themselves boast about during broadcasts, a top-tier streamer in Blueface tier can clear 5-figure sums per multi-hour session in subscription and gifted sub revenue alone, before advertising, before merch, before the appearance fees his name attaches to. Music, by comparison, in the current streaming environment, where mid-catalog rap artist earns roughly the reported industry-standard fractions of a simper stream, aggregated across services, requires tens of millions of plays to hit the same monthly floor. The math doesn't just favor Kick. The math shames the catalog, which means every hour Blueface spends in a booth is an hour he's losing money against every hour he spends on the driver's seat cam. And a rational operator, given that math, does exactly what he's doing. And storylines need cast rotation. Nevaeh gave him a full arc. The pregnancy, the tattoo, the birth, the DNA drama, the knife clip that still lives rent-free on hot new hip-hop. That arc has now delivered its finale. The baby's here. Ratings peak at the crossover. You don't run the same arc twice. You introduce a new character while the finale's still fresh. That's Screenwriting 101. And every showrunner in prestige TV, from the HBO era through the current streaming glut, has known it for 20 years. You launch the new season inside the last frame of the old season. You show the audience the new face before they've finished processing the old one leaving. Reportedly, the reason certain long-running dramas have kept their audiences for a decade plus is precisely this technique, the cast overlap in the finale/premiere hinge. Blueface calendar in August 2026 is running that same hinge. He's not being sloppy. He's being literate. Enter India. 6 years in the Rolodex. Never platformed. Never given a name check on stream. Suddenly, 4 days after the biggest ratings event of the year, she's in the passenger seat, getting a full origin story, a nickname, a compatibility check, and a promise about taking Nevaeh's spot. That's not romance. That's casting. Rewatch the intro sequence with the casting frame on, and every beat lands cleaner. The nickname, that's her character name. The origin story, that's her one-sheet backstory. The compatibility check, that's the chemistry read. The taking Nevaeh's spot line, that's her deal announcement to the audience. In broadcast terms, she was formally introduced to the show. And if you go back to the Nevaeh introduction cycle from earlier this year, the beat-for-beat structure was identical. Same nickname protocol. Same 6-year backstory beat. Same she's different compatibility read. Same she's here to stay promise. 2 women. Same intro template. That's not a coincidence. That's a format sheet. And Chrisean flying in from Baltimore the same weekend? That's the finale button. That's the previously on flashback playing right as the new season drops. The Baltimore flight ain't a rekindling. It's a ratings insurance policy in case the India rollout falls flat. Insurance policies are underwritten by the numbers, and here the underwriting math is embarrassing. Chrisean Rock, at this point in the timeline, is one of the most established recurring characters in Blueface on-camera universe. Years of Zeus TV reality show catalog, ProPublic reporting on that era, and years of viral clips on top. Bringing her into town during a launch weekend is the equivalent of a legacy franchise film sliding a cameo from the original cast into the reboot. It calms the base. It hedges against a bad opening. If India's numbers are soft, Chrisean's presence covers the shortfall. If India's numbers are hot, Chrisean's presence doubles them, because now there's a jealousy vertical to milk. You cannot lose that bet. He didn't book her. He underwrote her. The kick metrics tell on him. Nevaeh's response stream broke 25,000 concurrent. His India stream held 19,000 plus. Chrisean weekend content, you already know. 3 separate storylines, 3 separate revenue streams, one man narrating all of them into the same camera. That's not chaos. That's a network. Networks have programming grids. Programming grids have day parts. Look at the day part structure of the last 96 hours of Blueface content, and it's literally programmed. Afternoon slot on the 20th for the DNA swab family arc audience. Evening slot on the 21st for the Chrisean flight in tease nostalgia arc audience. Afternoon slot on the 22nd for the India rollout newcast audience. Late night on the 22nd for Nevaeh's response counter program drama arc audience. One camera. For demos. A media buyer for a mid-sized cable network could not have laid it out cleaner. And nobody wrote it down, because it doesn't need to be written down. It's being run by a man whose entire economic incentive is to keep 4 verticals live at once. Nevaeh calling asking for food, while he's on a date with the newest cast member? That was the pilot for what he wants next season to look like. He let that phone call happen on stream. He didn't step outside. He didn't mute. He let it air because the friction is the product. Friction is the product. Write that on a post-it. Every time a Blueface stream generates a viral clip in the next quarter, ask what friction it exploited. Not what content it created, what friction it exploited. The India stream's viral clip wasn't the lunch. The viral clip was the ringing phone. The DNA stream's viral clip wasn't the swab. The viral clip was the reversal. The labor stream's viral clip wasn't the birth. The viral clip was the driving. In every case, the moment that hit was the moment 2 forces collided inside one frame. Mother and stranger, promise and retraction, joy and inappropriateness. Friction is the algorithm's favorite ingredient, and Blueface has, whether by instinct or design, become one of the most consistent friction generators on the platform. You want the sharpest version? Blueface didn't replace Nevaeh with India. He promoted India. Nevaeh is still on the show. India just got her SAG card. Sit with that. Sit with it, because the framing has consequences past this week. If the audience buys the swap frame, then when Nevaeh reappears in 6 weeks, and she will, because she has a son with this man, and there is no version of the calendar where she vanishes, the audience treats her as a comeback. If the audience buys the promotion frame instead, Nevaeh's reappearance reads as a returning series regular in a growing ensemble. Those 2 frames drive very different narratives, very different sympathy patterns, and very different revenue splits. The frame is the fight, and the frame is what this breakdown has been fighting over from paragraph 1. Where this rolls from here. The next 30 days, expect Nevaeh to sit for a long form, a Jason Lee. And it is what it is, a Kai Cenat crossover. Something with a chair, a mic, and a producer whispering the good questions. She's got receipts. She's got a newborn. She's got timeline sympathy. The industry loves a scorned mother with a clip reel. She won't crash out again on Kick. She already said she wouldn't. She'll do it on somebody else's platform, where the check clears cleaner. And the check cleaner platforms have their own incentives that align cleanly with hers. Long-form interview hosts in this vertical, according to the reporting available on their industry standard rate cards and sponsorship structures, benefit disproportionately from a guest who arrives with a fresh receipt package and pre-existing audience awareness. Nevaeh checks both boxes cold. Whichever host lands her first will book a spike in that episode's numbers, and Nevaeh, in exchange, gets a produced environment, a friendly editing suite, and, crucially, a frame. That frame is what she couldn't get from her own Kick chat. Her Kick chat gave her sympathy. A produced long form gives her narrative. Different currency. Longer maturity. Watch how fast the India rebrand starts. She'll drop the skinny-ass India nickname within 2 streams. That's a burner alias, not a brand. Expect a real IG handle to surface. A merch tease, maybe a feature verse Blueface writes in 20 minutes and calls a duet. If she plays it right, she's the new Chrisean without the felony sheet. If she plays it wrong, she's a 2-week arc and back to Arizona. The rebrand tell will be the photo grid. Watch for a curated feed drop within 7 days of the India stream. Somebody in her camp, or in his, will scrub the Arizona-era casual content and replace it with an aspirational grid. Expect a first-name-only handle. Expect the 6-year backstory to make it into the bio in some coded form. Expect a merch drop within 30 days, because merch is how streamers formalize a new cast member's earning tier. If any of those beats fail to land, no grid, no handle, no merch, you're watching a 2-week arc, and the calendar will move on to whichever name is next in the Rolodex. Those beats are the contract terms of her promotion. 5 years from now, this is the aftershock. The whole Blueface era gets studied as the transition case. The rapper who stopped being a rapper and became a reality showrunner streaming his own life for daily revenue. Chrisean was season 1. Jaden was the corporate pivot. Nevaeh was the family arc. India's the reboot. The next one after India is already texting him. And when the kick money finally dries up, because it will, all platforms cannibalize their loudest tenants eventually. The version of him that survives is the one that either sells the archive to a docuseries or writes the book. Bet on the docuseries. Because docuseries pay in one lump. Books pay in trickle. And a man whose entire adult economic instinct has been front-load the payment. Defer the consequence is not, historically, a book man. He's a term sheet and signing bonus man. The archive he's building right now, every VOD, every clip, every screen grab of every stream, is, in 5 years, going to be worth more than the entire discography. And that archive is being built by an audience that thinks it's watching drama. It's actually watching pre-production on the eventual retrospective. The audience is producing the material. He'll sell the material. That's the whole business model, laid flat. The opposition, the he's being honest, leave him alone camp, is going to age worst of all. Because in 3 years, when Junior is old enough to Google his own name, the entire streamed labor is going to sit on YouTube in perpetuity. That's not a cheat scandal. That's a custody exhibit. And no amount of poly-testimony framing survives a family court judge scrolling a kick VOD. Family court judges, according to published legal commentary on the intersection of social media evidence and custody rulings, have grown markedly more comfortable citing publicly available streamed content in evaluations over the last several years. Reportedly, in the current legal landscape, a live-streamed labor broadcast with commercial monetization attached, with third-party audience knowledge of the mother's medical status, with the newborn's initials and location publicly disclosed, meets several of the informal thresholds that courts flag as concerning under-evolving digital child welfare scrutiny. That's not a criminal exposure. That's not a filed complaint. That is, however, a preservable evidentiary record. And the record does not unrecord itself. The record ages. And it ages in the direction of the child, not the streamer. Somebody's gonna show him that clip in a deposition. Watch. Because that's what happens to receipts eventually. They get printed. They get bookmarked. They get exhibit labeled. They get walked into rooms with wood paneling and sworn testimony, and a court reporter with a stenograph machine. And when that room comes, 3 years, 5, 7, the clip that plays first is not the poly testimony. The clip that plays first is the drive to the hospital. The clip that plays second is, your time is going to come. The clip that plays third is the phone ringing at the lunch table. And by the fourth clip, the room has already made up its mind. The receipts aren't famed Cryptix's opinion. The receipts are Blueface's own footage. He filmed them. He uploaded them. He monetized them. And in doing so, he built the exhibit that will one day be read back to him under oath. That's the timing I told you we'd come back to. Proximity, pattern, and finally product. The product that outlives the audience. Y'all made it to the end, which means you already know what this channel does different. Hit like, hit subscribe, ring the bell. The next one's on how whack 100's Bluevision paperwork is quietly the whole reason none of this drama actually touches Blueface's bottom line. That one's gonna sting. See you there.